President-elect Trump has announced that one of his first priorities upon returning to the White House in 2025 is to get rid of the Department of Education and to instead allow each state to design their own curriculums. Republican politicians are elated by this news. Most among the general population doesn't understand why the Republican Party are so preoccupied with the educational system. The education taught within a society is much more important than most people realize. Once you understand what's actually being done through the educational system, you'll then understand why a growing number of Republican-led states seek to pass legislations banning the teachings of the academic concept known as critical race theory within our schools. They don't want true history ever being taught within our schools because the current version taught within our schools is designed for the benefit of the system of white supremacy. Here's how and why. According to white social scientists, in order for a dominant group to maintain its position of social dominance, the education taught within the society must convey the dominant culture's superiority over its subordinate populations. To meet this objective, the history we've been taught has been whitewashed to falsely exalt the dominant group. Doing so subliminally conveys the message that the dominant group is inherently superior and are therefore supposed to rule over the subordinate groups. According to white social scientists, people are inherently tribal and therefore do not naturally adhere to the long-term dominance of other racial groups over their lives. People must be manipulated to do so. This whitewashing within the educational system meets that objective. People's behaviors align with the information they've been misled to believe. By embedding the belief of white racial superiority into our collective subconscious minds, this not only makes non-whites more compliant with white dominance over our lives, it in fact in many cases makes us even prefer it. White social scientists describe this nefarious practice as merely instilling a value system into the collective minds of the subordinate populations that makes us adhere to the authority of the dominant culture. They say it makes us adhere to the existing infrastructure of the dominant culture. Now, here's a second reason why they whitewashed our history books and how it served the system of white supremacy. White social scientists also theorize that a people's future is predestined by the history they're taught to believe about themselves, because people references their future capabilities based upon their past achievements. Meeting this objective is also why the history we've been taught has been whitewashed. It inspires the future aspirations of only white students at the expense and future aspirations of we black students. Case, point, and proof. The white educational system miseducates us to believe that the world's first scholars were the Greeks. But the truth is that all of Greece's first scholars were educated by African scholars. The world's first scholars were all, in fact, Africans. The white educational system also miseducates us to believe that the father of medicine was a Greek named Hippocrates. However, the true father of medicine was actually an African named Imhotep. Imhotep was practicing medicine and writing on the subject for more than 2,000 years before Hippocrates, the so-called father of medicine, was even born. The white educational system also miseducates us to believe that the ancient Egyptians of Africa were ridiculously Europeans. But here are the facts to the contrary. Egypt is located in Africa, and carbon dating testings have scientifically proven that the ancient kingdom was built by Africans many thousands of years long before the arrival of the first Arabs and the first European Greeks during the 7th century. When the ancient kingdom was actually built, there were only Africans living in Africa's ancient Egypt. Furthermore, in 2012 and 2013, DNA analysis conducted on the many mummies of the pharaohs have scientifically proven that they were in fact Africans. Their DNA matching proved that they belong to the human Y chromosome group E1B1A. This is the Y chromosome group of Black sub-Saharan Africans. Because the white society doesn't have a glorious ancient history to inspire the white masses and to predestine themselves with an inspiring future, they've removed themselves from the non-inspiring caves of Europe and have placed themselves falsely upon the inspiring thrones of Africa's ancient Egypt. White historians have stolen the glorious history of Africa's ancient Egypt and falsely portrays it as being theirs, and they've manipulated the entire world to see things their way. According to white social scientists, truth is not important. What is only important to inspire a people's future is what's perceived as being true. People function based upon their perceptions of what's true rather than what actually is true. Therefore, white historians have whitewashed the ancient history to inspire the future aspirations of their racial group. This is what's meant when white social scientists says those who control the past also controls the future. The white society also falsely give themselves credit for most inventions that were actually made by Black people. Case, point, and proof. The white society has taught us that Thomas Edison is responsible for lighting up the entire world. However, the hidden truth is that after Thomas Edison patented his light bulb, no companies purchased it, no mass produced it. This is because it was deemed not efficient enough. It lit very dimly and only lasted a few minutes. The light bulb that was purchased and mass produced and its inventor dispatched around the world to oversee its installation was in fact actually invented by an African-American inventor named Lewis Latimer. He sold it to the U.S. Electric Company in 1881. The white society has also taught us that the Wright brothers are responsible for building the first aircraft in 1909. However, the hidden fact is that before the Wright brothers flew their aircraft in 1909, a Black man named Charles F. Page had already invented, patented, and flown an aircraft 3 years earlier in 1906. The white society has also miseducated us to believe that Henry Ford invented the first automobile. However, it was actually an African-American inventor named Charles Richard Patterson that built the first automobile. The C.R. Patterson and Sons Company started out as a carriage building firm in 1873. He and his son converted the company from a carriage business to an automobile manufacturer. They started making automobiles before Henry Ford in the early 1900s and sold the first one for $850. It was a 4-cylinder Continental engine. C.R. Patterson's automobiles were considered much more sophisticated. However, C.R. Patterson and Sons were forced out of business by Henry Ford in 1939. It's by deliberate design that most people are unaware of these historical facts. These facts have been deliberately omitted from our whitewashed history books. They've been expunged from the public record and history. Through their monopoly of information that are fed into our society, the white oppressors have falsely marginalized the past existence of Black people. They've manipulated millions to believe that most achievements have come from the minds of whites and to perceive Black people as being the leeches of society that haven't invented much throughout history. But the truth is in fact the exact opposite from what they've manipulated millions to believe. The hidden reality is that in spite of cultural traumas wrought by the injustices of white racism and slavery, most inventions that have revolutionized the world were in fact either invented by black people or directly inspired by earlier inventions made by black people. Without black people, there would exist no motors, no automobiles, no airplanes, no helicopters. Without black people, we would not have these skyscrapers. We only have skyscrapers because black people invented the elevator, the air conditioning, and central heating, which are essential in order for people to live or work within skyscrapers. Without black people, there would exist no internet, no cell phones. We wouldn't have cameras and microphones on our cell phones if it wasn't for black people. We wouldn't have the accurate weather forecasting system. We wouldn't have the cataract laser removal scope. There would be no emails, no GPS, no hearing aids, no touch-tone phones, no caller ID, no home surveillance security systems. There'll be no home game cartridges, no steam engines, no traffic lights. Without black people, there would exist no refrigerators, no refrigerated trucks, therefore no ice cream trucks, no blood banks, no dry cleaning, no lawnmowers, no doorknobs, no 3D movies, etc., etc. Black people have in fact enriched nearly every aspect of the lives of every person on this planet through our many inventions. It's actually the genius minds of black people that moves the society forward. Whenever lies have been told to the masses over many generations, the truth will sound absolutely ridiculous and its speaker will sound like a raving lunatic. Nonetheless, the truth is still the truth, even if most people have been brainwashed to believe the lies. The white society sits upon a throne of white exalting and black marginalizing lies. They've even misled millions to believe that their group are the highest evolved Homo sapiens and to perceive we Africans as being the lowest evolved. However, the truth is the complete opposite. It is that we Africans have been scientifically proven as being the only true homogeneous species. Our melanated skin color and our hair type has been provenly be the direct result of Homo sapien DNA. All other groups are actually scientifically classified as Homo sapiens sapiens. The additional sapiens means modern humans that evolved from lower primates. Unlike other groups that evolved from primates, we Africans are not included on the Darwin evolutionary chart because Africans have instead always been Homo sapiens. Millions of people are inaccurately perceiving reality through the distorted lens of the white society. It's an enormous illusory truth effect that has been indoctrinated into our collective minds since birth through the white society's monopoly over information. An illusory truth effect is when people have been made to believe that false information is true because of being constantly subjected to the false information. They then begin their thoughts and behaviors aligned with the false information. They begin functioning based upon the false information, thus inaccurately perceiving reality. This is all possible because public perception is not shaped based on fact nor reality. It's actually shaped by the narratives that are fed into a society. Therefore, all that's required to distort the public's perception of reality is to feed false narrative into a society. The public at large begins functioning based upon those false narratives rather than the true reality. Because the white society controls all the narrative, they literally control the interpretation of reality. They feed lots of false information into a society that exalts whites and marginalizes us in order to create and sustain false assumptions within the society that aids them in maintaining their social dominance and social capital over the black population. Your perception of reality is an elaborate white deception. This is the real matrix. The real matrix are lies that have got you to believe, and you're seeing the world through those lies. It's time to wake up to our reality. We are in the matrix.